Good morning, friends. Indeed, it's very happy to see you all on a Sunday morning. I know that most of you would have had weekend celebrations for New Year and other things, but nevertheless, when it comes to books, people always have given the highest priority to, spare their time because we know that it helps us to freshen ourselves and enrich our knowledge. Today, we are going to discuss about one of the finest books that I've read in 2021. I'm not saying that I've published the book, because the publisher should be basically a good reader. In that sense, I would say that 2021, we have had the opportunity of reading the books and also to get to know uh, very well about the author of the book, Madam Sivakami. Though I know her for the last 15 years, but yet this book has brought us so close this year. We thought it would be appropriate the beginning of the new year that we should have a discussion of this book rather than somebody having a lengthy monologue about the book. A discussion probably would enlighten the viewers, especially when we are all listening to this kind of today the Zoom and other things. Discussion would be appropriate. Then we thought who would be the appropriate person, because the persons who are going to discuss about the book should have also well read about this and also have the capabilities to discuss about the book. Then we could not think of anybody other than Dr. Miruna. Many of you know her very well, and some of her students also have joined. She was working as associate professor of English and also head of the department of Stella Maris College for the past 24 years. And she has done her PhD in contemporary Indian English theatre and Magesh Dattani's plays. We also have the privilege of publishing our book recently. So she is going to be one of our panelists to discuss about the book. Then we also were contemplating who should have to, when an eminent academician like Miruna is on the other side, somebody should be this side to discuss equally with a vigor. We could not find anybody other than a very young and dynamic journalist. I would say she is not only the print media but is also well known in the television media. I've known her since the time she was working for Hindu. Now she is with News 18, none other than Sharada. Sharada is a graduate from Asian School of Journalism. She is going to discuss with Miruna about this book, Language of the Mirror. You all know that this book is authored by Sivakami. Sivakami is a well-known IAS officer, worked in various capacities for nearly 29 years, and she took volunteer retirement from the service to get into public life, where she became very, very active, activist on various spheres, particularly, the Dalit community. She is an Indian Dalit feminist writer, and she has written a number of books. She has written 6 novels and 60 short stories. So many of them have been very well received, and some of them received even awarded with the prizes also. So it is really great honor that we Emerald Publishers have chosen to publish our book this year. One of the finest books, one of the finest book I've read this, as I said earlier. When anybody reads this book, immediately what would come in their mind is whether it's a biography of Sivakami. This question has been asked many times by many to her, but she has very beautifully said that nobody can write a biography because biography is one-sided. I would say it's also a fiction actually. If you ask me to write a biography about myself, it will again only be from my side. It cannot be all that real. So it's a kind of fiction. So when this book came to us, it was recommended to us by our well-wisher, Professor Kadambari. Kadambari was a well-known academician from Retd College, Chennai. So when Kadambari, said that you should publish this book, this will be definitely a jewel in the crown of Emerald, we immediately accepted that because Kadambari does not easily give credit to anything unless she gets involved in that. So we are very happy that this morning we have so many of us present. It's not just going to be the three of them going to talk. At some point of time, if you wanted to raise questions, unfortunately for the convenience, we have currently mute everybody. But you can, any point of time, you can raise your hand if you want to ask questions. So we will unmute you, so that you can ask questions. So the panelists or Madam Sivakami would be only pleased to answer the questions to you. Once again, I'm very happy to welcome you all for this morning discussion on this. Now over to first, I'm inviting Professor Dr. Miruna George for our opening remarks, and followed by Sharada, then they will initiate discussions. Thank you. Welcome, madam.
I think I didn't unmute myself.
Yeah, you can speak, madam. Yes, you're audible, Dr. Miruna.
Yes.
Welcome.
Good morning. First of all, I wish to thank Mr. Olivannan for giving me this opportunity, and of course the author, Dr. Sivakami. When this novel was given to me, to give my comments, I started reading. It took a while for me to get into the format, because I felt that this novel is a meditative novel. And I suggested that I would probably begin this discussion with giving my comments, my reflections on this novel, and then I suggested that we could get into the discussion. So I'm going to give my thoughts on this novel first. This novel I found to be a meditative novel, as I said in the beginning, on life, death, mortality, eternity, and human relationships. And I also felt that this novel reads like a journal. In fact, previous time when we met and we had a small discussion, I was also telling them that this novel reads like a journal. And as an academician, I also found that the kind of narrative style, it balances the journal format where everyday activities are recorded, and there is a personal narrative recounting the central character Bhuvana's sojourn at the university as a research scholar. It is contemplative, full of insights into human behavior, personality types, trying to read one's environment slowly, acclimatizing oneself with the weather conditions, people, and places. I found it very focused and conscious. It's a self-conscious writer that you could see in Dr. P. Sivakami, the authorial voice, perhaps I would refer to as the struggle to keep the inner self, the core, not to succumb to the heart-wrenching images that flashes across her mind's eye, deeply buried in her consciousness. It sort of lifts the novel from spiraling into a vortex of pathos or self-pity. And the image of that all-pervasive snow, the long and oppressive winter, which is traditionally used as a symbol of misery and darkness, the author has used it as a season of hibernation. It's a purposeful hibernation that you could see here, consciously emerging from the burrow with more clarity and willful surrender to the winds of change that may be termed fate or destiny. Or perhaps it's out of individual choices spiraling towards an end, catastrophic sometimes in the case of the character Guna. The novel is also, in a sense, cathartic, seeking the release through total immersion in work, study, research, passionate advocacy for women's political engagement, discovering one's people skills, befriending women across ranks, sectors, age group, and fields. And the final attempt through meditation classes, connecting with one's inner self, spirit, and the soul. And I find the novel is set in the third person, almost a commentary on Bhuvana, the central character, about whom the novel is set. Her life from the time she starts her fellowship in a US university, having come for research over there on women and political engagement. And this particular novel, one thing very, very striking about the novel is the kind of, characters. It's almost like Tolstoysian in its vast canvas, so many characters that you come across, and every character has been given a very, very specific description, that kind of eye to details that you could see in the novel. And I think if you start reading the novel, perhaps you will know that how much of observation, the skills that as a writer, the author has kind of put in here. And one more striking fact about this novel is it's physical as well as spiritual. So the healing is the expected outcome here, and how the mind and the heart, it longs for some kind of a reconciliation that is not, with a past memory that is there and which is not being properly dealt with. Yeah, and this temporary sojourn here is almost like a diversion here. And when I was reading this novel, I was reminded of Sachi Deshpande's Small Remedies. And there, the central character, Madhu, how she tries to be healed of the loss of her son. And similarly, here, Bona is trying to suppress, and time and again, it emerges from that, the depth of her mind, the heart here, the memory. And, the dear one, it's forever with you, inseparable and intertwined like your DNA. And another thing about the novel is that the many strands that the author has managed to strike a balance adroitly, that includes personal account through interior monologues, the self-reflection on one's past, intentions, motives, feelings, and emotions, and together with those revealed in verbal exchanges with the other characters that serve as catalysts in this process. So with that kind of opening, I thought we could move on to the discussion. Yes, Mr. Olivannan. Is it all right for an yeah? Yes, Sharda?
Yeah, should I take over from here?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
yes, please.
I'll do that. Yeah. So thank you, Madam Sivakami and Mr. Olivannan for giving me this opportunity. I loved reading the book. It was a good experience for me. Going back to Bhuvana is the name of the central character, the protagonist. So getting back to Bhuvana every night was a good experience for me. So this book is not about someone living in abroad, longing to come back home, or someone who is excited about living in a foreign land. So this is a journey that you'll have to take along with Bhuvana, a middle-aged woman who has a troubled personal life, who's undergoing a personal turmoil, and yet does not sit back and grieve, but goes out to explore and experience more facets of life. This was particularly interesting for me because the protagonist, Bhuvana, is a middle-aged woman who usually in our society are invisible. Middle-aged women, a married woman, say in 40s or 50s, is only expected to take care of the family, expected to start looking for a good match for their children, or send their kids abroad and take care of their own aging parents. And women of this age rarely make new friends, or they're able to continue their old friendships. But here we have Bhuvana, a girl from a oppressed background who belongs to an agricultural family from South India. She ventures out for a research project in an American university, and there she makes new friends, women friends, and she interviews people, women elected representatives, and she meets people from different backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, and she successfully completes her project. So this is the 1 year journey which Bhuvana takes us along with her. So as Madam Miruna George had mentioned, this is not in the regular structure of a novel where you have 2-3 characters, where you have a climax, a peak, and then the end. It is not like that, but it is definitely an interesting read if you fall in love with Bhuvana. So it is more of introspections and how she perceives the world around her, and you come to know how well read Bhuvana is. And through the character of a research scholar, the author is able to touch upon different social aspects, on different perspectives of political and social issues. So I have more points to say under different topics. So this is what I would say as my introductory remarks. So if you want us to be to have an interaction on different topics, we can go ahead with that. Otherwise, I'll have to tell all my remarks here. So I think Mr. Olivannan can tell us more how to go about it.
Yes, madam. You can initiate now questions. So you can, both of you can initiate a question to each other and can answer, madam.
Okay. So what?
Go
Yeah.
ahead,
So
please go
what
ahead.
I found, one thing what I found about Bhuvana was that she stays abroad. I mean, she appreciates the good customs and practices she comes across during her 1 year period there. But never did I feel that she was trying to ape their culture. So, and this makes the book more closer to someone who hasn't traveled abroad like me. So all her experiences are from the lens of a South Indian girl. So I could stay connected with Bhuvana throughout the book. So when she, for example, when she sees someone with a mustache, she compares it with that of an actor Rajnikant's mustache here. And she never fails to fascinate her colleagues with the Indian upma, pulao, and lemon rice. And she often has a Tamil proverb or a Tirukural to remember. So she's always connected with her roots, and that makes it interesting for the readers as well. This was one point I felt which was there throughout the book. So I think Dr. Miruna George would have also noticed it, and I think she will have more also to say about this.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I wanted to talk about that as well. At certain points, she uses Tamil words, and first she mentions the proverb in Tamil, and then she kind of translates that, so that native readers like us should not lose the capture the meaning of it, the nuances of it, because most of it during translation, we get to the feel of the actual proverb, experience the effect of the proverb. So that is one thing about the use of Tamil there. And of course, we have certain metaphors, certain things that we have in our collective consciousness as Indians. When she talks about caste system, when she talks about how women are doubly oppressed in this scenario here, and the need for political engagement. Yes, and she refers to this 33%, reservation, and consciously she asks that question, to most of the administrators, the counselor, and the mayor over there in the US. And she always, analyzes that kind of analytical, perspective that is woven into her writing. Okay, and in terms of even the way how women have to balance between home life and public life, that kind of insight here, you could see that the readers could benefit from. And most of them, don't really get much help from the male counterparts, of course, except for one or two where you see the equal sharing of housework happening. And she describes that so beautifully, and she says, how Brian takes over cooking, and then where the women are, Loretta is left to enjoy her talk with yes, Bhuvana there. So those kind of things, sometimes it does happen in the Indian context, but not always. And she's very specific about capturing those moments, and she gives her own comments about that, and that kind of description is also there with reference to the personality, giving comments about the dress, the individual, the makeup, how the women are well groomed over there. So things are that, these kind of things bring in that reality perspective, very, very sharp details there. It always kind of enables you to imagine the visualization of the space there, the setup there, the individuals, the persons there, etc. So, and another thing also about the library. Yes, so maybe we can move on to the next academic life that she describes there. Yes, from
yeah.
this.
So talking about women, yeah. So Bhuvana here is surrounded by a lot of women characters, women of different age, women coming from different families. And Bhuvana is able to observe them and get enough chances to know their everyday lives. And she's able to know the plight of women in Western family systems, and she in a way compares their lives with the families of women in the families, Indian families. So Bona at one point says family gives love. I mean, family expects love, sacrifices, but it is but never gives freedom and equality. And this is so true, especially of women in Indian families. Many of us here are unable to discuss or talk about the family systems, the pressure one woman has to undergo inside a family system. Sometimes it is even a taboo. You are expected to sacrifice. You're put on a pedestal and you are expected to dust it. That is the case of most Indian women here. And Bhuvana, at one point, she says that she was asked to choose between family and freedom. And for many Indian women have chosen family. And I think Bona probably has chosen freedom. So such statements and references help us understand or have a sharper perspective about the family systems here and there as well. And as you said, she also mentions the progressive customs which she comes across in different families. She once sees a son-in-law washing the dishes when she goes for a get-together, and which she says is a very, very rare sight in India. So such statements from Bhuvana connects more to women, and it helps it for especially for women readers to stay connected with Bhuvana throughout. And she also meets people from, she meets a same-sex couple, so with a kid. So she keeps wondering how the two women will be able to raise a child. What would that kid call their parents? So she also observes how such practices are taken easily by the Western culture. So she says she comes from a family which is critical of Western traditions. And here she mentions what are the progressive customs which exist in the Western world, but also criticizes the Western perspectives wherever she has to. Their stereotypical views of the Eastern world that she mentions, as you said, as we will be discussing in her academic life through her book reviews and other meetings, she also does that. So she gives us a balanced view of the life in a foreign land, I would say.
Sharda, I would like to read a few lines from the novel. Okay, just to comment about the, like in my opening remarks, I talked about the meditative style. Yeah, just to support that, give a sample of what she's written. It's in page 165, yes, and she says, distance kills the greenery of love. People like to live their present with whatever is near and reachable. Humans are addicted to nearness when compared to remoteness. Her people and she soon got used to their mutual absences. She felt better off without them, and it was not painful for her to realize that they might feel the same way. The springs of love had gone so deep that they were no longer visible. To draw a line and walk on it without falling does not make a man human, does it? With all the innate and acquired knowledge of the world, does man live happily? Who had drawn the lines or codes, and for whose benefit? People may pretend to follow them all. That was possible. Fully accepting and following them was not possible. At the same time, it was not feasible to live without them. Individual freedom at many levels intersects with that of another individual. An individual's conscience is linked to many others. There is some sort of a riddle in human life that is meant to be solved with united efforts. And then she goes on, refers to the Holy Scriptures and all those things. So here, in between these kind of nuggets of truth, like, Virginia Woolf would call them, yes, from your observation around on people, life as such, as it flows by, and how sometimes, so, especially like Bona, who's, in this state of mind, like you said, contemplative on the one hand, of course, grieving partly, and not really able to acknowledge that grief as well, and in a new place, finding herself in a new place, far away from home, all that, it's a very, very complex mind probably that had come out with this kind of reflection on life. I don't want to read, portions from the novel which talks about the grief and all that, because I thought, it's understood, like we have to move past that, because whenever she mentions freedom, actually she mentions freedom from probably those thoughts, the darkness of the mind. I don't know, I felt it that way. What do you think, Shanta?
Yeah, she's constantly yearning for a freedom. Yeah, so freedom at many levels. So that is how we bring in the spiritual aspects that we find in the novel. And also when she talks about freedom, I think there is a reference about Bhuvana, which says in the past she has led many protests, leading people from the oppressed sections, asking, standing for their demands and waiting and protesting for them. So freedom at many levels, I would say, spiritual, social, and political, I would say. And we even till the end of the book, you do not get every detail about Bhuvana's past, and I think that is the beauty of the book. So there is just one statement which I referred here about she leading some protest. So I thought I would get to know more about it by the end while I finished reading it, but there was not such references. It was only about a 1-year journey. So you can just keep imagining what she could have, she would have done before coming here. So you are the leader. The readers are left to imagine her past from what she is doing here. Like I would say, she was always socially conscious, because at one instance when she was in a library, I guess on a snowstorm day, she was alerted by the sanitary worker there to leave the place immediately because there's going to be a heavy snowstorm. Then she immediately asks about the sanitary worker, then why aren't you leaving? So here she tells us that a sanitary worker, though in the Western country, has to undergo the same kind of trouble and trauma, and their conditions are definitely not better off than the other people's. While the others can take an off on a snowstorm day, someone like a sanitary worker has to be there in those situations, and that is their life. So she never forgets to question that, and also let the readers know what their state in a Western country is. So these are just statements sprinkled here and there, and I think that is another beauty of this book. It is not just a story. It is not an apolitical story. At the same time, it does not scream revolution. So you just have these statements and perspectives of Bhuvana sprinkled here and there, from which the readers can make their own understandings. Yeah, so there are more about it also, examples of such instances which we can share a little later.
Yeah, on that note, I would like to add her comments on African American community. Remember that little boy after the divorce? She says, okay, what will happen to him? What will happen to his future? How is he going to face the world? So those kind of thoughts also. So the invisible issue probably that we don't want to acknowledge in our social system, with reference to the subaltern, because she uses the word subaltern, quite in many places. And even in the conference when they go to Kansas City, where she attends that workshop, and she comments about that. So how important it is, especially women coming from, the subaltern section. So it's more about championing the cause of the women, than kind of, I'm not saying that she's not including the male sex or anything here, but from the point of view of oppression, perhaps, that seems to be her concern, the point that she's making in the novel.
So talking about African American, there is another reference. since the character Bhuvana is a research scholar, I think that gives the author more scope to touch upon many social aspects by the way of book reviews and seminars that she attends. So in one of the book reviews, there is an incident which is discussed about the rape of a young Black woman by white males. So there she goes on to explain that such crimes cannot be looked at as individual instances. And she mentions crimes which happen against communities as a whole. And there she brings in references of violence at Dharmapuri village in Tamil Nadu and the Kairlanj incident here in Madhya Pradesh. So such references you may not find such references very usual in a fiction, in a novel. So as I mentioned, this is not just an apolitical story, and the readers can enjoy both the advantages of a fiction and a non-fiction by reading this book. And it does not just give you a feel-good, a good feel after reading the book, but also helps you understand more things, or helps you start probing things or look at things from a different perspective. If people have not been exposed to such perspectives earlier, it does give an opening for such readers.
Yeah, right. Like you said, the social consciousness that is there, interwoven into the novel everywhere. I think whether she's talking about the working class women in the university setup over there, when she talks about Annabelle, when she talks about the other characters, the financial challenges faced by them, so beautifully that she was able to bring in that social consciousness here. Like you said, with reference to the Dharmapuri incident and all that. So there seems to be that parallel, aspect in the novel, the Indian and the American. So and she also makes a comment about social injustice. Yes, over and above the mission for social justice. So whether the subaltern that she keeps referring to, or even the women being the subaltern, the other sex here, whatever the case may be, in whatever context that she narrates a particular incident, the prime motive is always to keep our eyes on the issue of social justice, like how it eludes, it is still not there. It still remains a dream, much like how in many cases in African American, the Black Lives Matter. So similarly, the Indian counterparts, the Dalit Lives Matter, those things. So, that it raises the novel above the mundane, the physical, the routineness of life. It's not like you wake up in the morning, you have your coffee, you go take that orange bus, reach the university, and indulge in research, because that aspect is very, very, I don't know, it attracted me a lot, because yes, doing research, being immersed in books, being lost in a library, from morning till afternoon she reads without realizing that it's become dark. One day she finally realizes that she rushes out of the library and misses almost that orange bus. Yes, so that orange bus has become the movement, the journey from the academics to her personal life. And
so as an academician, I think you would have been able to connect to her more. And you said you had also a similar stint in a foreign country, in a foreign university.
Yes. And the journey motive which you mentioned in the beginning, yes, very much there. Journey, the interior journey there, looking for that core, the peace, and all that. And then, of course, rightly balanced with the journey to many places. And I think that the white river that becomes snowy during the extreme winter. Yes, and then the Connecticut River and all that. These are all, I don't know, maybe I look at them as symbols or whatever. So the rejuvenation, coming back to life when she hears the birds chirping, and then she says, now spring is finally there, almost there, sort of thing. So it's a full circle, probably you would see at the end of the novel. Yes. Okay. Yes, Sharda, you take over this.
Yeah. And another point, which I thought she was trying to drive home strongly, was women's direct political representation or participation. Though you might be there behind policy making and discussing social political issues on different platforms, Bhuvana feels that women's direct political participation is very important, and that is in fact her subject of core subject of her research, and her interviews are based on that topic. So those interviews are not completely fictional, I guess. So when I felt, I did not feel so. So I was just listening to maybe actual perspectives from elected representatives in a Western country. I think maybe after we speak, Madam can say how fictional or non-fictional were those interviews. So though some of them in those interviews, what I noticed was, though some of them agree that there is discrimination based on gender, they don't, not all of them agree to a gender-based reservation in politics. Like we are still fighting for a 33% reservation for women. There is this perspective, there is this constant debate about merit versus reservation, and that has percolated even among the women elected representatives in the Western country. So I think maybe she's trying to say, drive this point that when there is discrimination based on caste or gender, then the solution should also be on the same level. So through different interviews, meeting different people, we come to know how their system functions. For example, how easily approachable a mayor was in their country, and unlike how our mayors in corporations and city corporations here, and how their work structure and work style is different from theirs here. So that was interesting for me as a journalist as well, to know through a novel how this system functions. Was an unexpected, interesting piece of information for me. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was very fascinated by the use of the word historical loss. Yes, historical loss. And
Yeah.
she uses that to refer to not only gender or sex-based deprivation of proper representation here, opportunities there. In many ways, in education, whether we are referring to unconsciously, most of us, our generation, we would go back to Mandal Commission. Yes, I'm sorry, Sharda, you're much younger. I'm just saying, our generation of Mandal Commission, and how when it was proposed reservation, there was a lot of resistance to that. Yes, so and she makes it very clear, that historical loss, how do you make up for that? How do you compensate for those years of loss? So you need to provide them with some more opportunities, extend that. And similarly, where I was also fascinated by the way she, Bhuvana questions the, the elected members. She says, yes, you have done all good, and they say, yeah, health and other things that we contribute towards. But what exactly have you done for the women? In most of the times you see that question is repeated by Bhuvana. Yes. And she says, what have you done for women? See, even in the library, women bring their children. How do you propose to give them that space where they can, let the children put in some kind of care facility, and they could come and do their research? So the specificities of contribution to come from the elected members. See, it's all good when you do your promises and say, if I'm elected, I will do this, I will bring in more, proper vigilance for women's protection. So all that is fine. But how do you specify in terms of the measures that would benefit the women directly? So that's one question that Bhuvana keeps asking. So later on, maybe Sivakami ma'am can give us some more, because having been in the administrative service, she probably would have more experiences where women need to be benefited directly from the government. Yes.
Yeah, like we had already spoken, she also touches upon the education system and the state of farmers in their country and our country. When she comes to know of an education system that prevails, where someone has to contribute according to the property they own and get the children of the family educated, she's fascinated by the system, and she compares it with the Indian education system, which is so messed up and can't even be explained in a sentence to a foreigner. When someone else in the novel asks what is the system in India, she says, "Oh no, that can't be explained." That's what she feels herself. So such statements, as I mentioned, which are sprinkled here and there, are, I think, very important. And she also refers how the government's distorted policies have affected the farmers here, while she goes on a visit where she comes to know that farmers there are also at loss, and the children are taken on an excursion kind of a visit, and where they pay for the tickets, and that's how farmers get their revenue at one particular place. So wherever she goes, she's socially conscious, and keeps the readers also conscious about what is happening around Bhuvana, and constantly gives a perspective to the issues that she notices around her. Yeah.
Yeah, the apple farm, when they are going to buy a gift. Yes, she's recommended to buy from the farm. Yes, that's incident. And much more, I think, later on also when she talks about Stern's vegetable market, and then of course buying from the department stores. So where this vegetable market probably would benefit the farmer, whereas the department store, the uh, profit would go to the owner of the department chain. So these subtle references, kind of make the reader conscious the plight of the farmers. Yes. And I want to talk about that women representatives, that workshop in Kansas City, where she gets to meet women scholars from all over the world. When they stay together, and then the flight gets cancelled, and they get an opportunity to interact with each other. And they tell each other their personal story as well as their professional story, how they got inspired to come over to US for research, etc. And if you notice that, more than the men scholars, the male scholars over there, Bona is particularly, involved with the lives of the women scholars. Okay, and I think it is also done in a conscious manner, the narration, because you would notice that right from the beginning, that has been the one of the agenda of the book. I don't know whether I will be blamed for using the word agenda, because sometimes, yes, okay.
There's an agenda behind everything.
Yes, yes, I know.
Nobody's agenda.
Yeah. And no, like in the sense, politicize it or make it problematic. In that way, I meant. Okay, so that has always been there, to foreground or to keep the women in the limelight, the lives of the struggles of the women, and how, in spite of that, they have succeeded in their lives. So that kind of a success story, perhaps as stories of inspiration. So many scholars, especially girls, female scholars, if they read the book, there's so much to kind of learn from. That you have to leave the comfort of your home, you have to leave the sheltering space of your parents or the home institution, to venture, to take a risk. Yes, so it's almost like that. So because Bhuvana, as soon as she landed up there, the snow, the all-pervasive snow is there, and every day for her to navigate through the snow, to everything that she has to learn by herself. If you are not really that spirited, if you're not that adventurous, I don't think that particular trip would have been memorable or enjoyable on her part. Okay, so to leave the comfort space. So that is also one of the themes, I think, of the novel. So what do you think about it?
Yeah, definitely. She is not very choosy about her things, or which gives comfort to her. Yeah. So she wants to make new friends, and she does make space for them in her life. So she's at sometimes she's worried about her poor English grammar, but at the end, by her content of her speech, by her perspectives, new perspectives that she introduces to the foreign friends, she's able to make new friends with them. I think that is the success of Bhuvana. It is not about just your language, it is about your content, your thoughts and perspectives. And there she succeeds by making new friends, and people are able to understand her. She's able to make others understand her in a foreign land. She was able to do that and connect with people. And her relationship with Loretta was very interesting. And she gets very attached to her at one point when they go watch an ice hockey match. This is the statement she makes when Loretta leaves her in the among the watchers there. She says she leaves her like a mother would leave a baby with a babysitter. So such examples, such comparisons were very connective, and also explains the relationship between Loretta and Bhuvana. So such relationships we do not find in our everyday lives, or it is difficult.
Madam, you have to unmute yourself, sir.
Was able to do, and that was I think was very interesting. So I think maybe you could also add more onto it, like the relationship between Loretta and Bhuvana, and not just with Loretta, with other women as well.
Yeah, one another person described Susan Brooks. Remember the character Susan Brooks, and she was a mayor, and then she was warned. She gets caught in a drunken incident, drunken drive incident. Yes. So, it's also looking into the weaknesses of the people. It's not like whoever she presents, they're not actually perfect in that sense. So they also have their elements of weakness. And when she talks about Annabelle, like, yeah, Loretta, of course, is a very, very strong character in the sense, like, you almost look up to her. No wonder Bona was, what do I say, find that strength, yes, energy and strength from being with her. Apart from that, I'm also looking at the other characters like Susan, and then of course we also are talking about Annabelle and Edward's sister. Yes, she has to give music lessons, and how she is a member of a music band, remember, and almost a celebrity. Yes. So, all this is actually possible only in the American soil. Sometimes that kind of larger than life, life size, life being lived there. Okay, the celebrity life lived over there is not something which our Indian celebrities are. I mean, they don't want to keep it highlighted in such a manner. And you see how Bona looks at all that, and she keeps comparing that. And she says, okay, fine. You see the charming house that she maintains, the artifacts, the paintings, commenting about all that. So it's almost like the reader herself or himself is taking a trip into, a visit to the house. So such is the power of the description that I was talking about. So whether it is persons or characters or the place or even the natural beauty, see, that is another thing, the beauty of the place, it comes alive. Yeah, you're able to imagine that space even without even traveling over to what do you say, either Connecticut or somewhere around there. The name is given actually to the university. Yes, it's always the university. Yeah. So all the space around that, the surroundings there, the beautiful mountains, the rivers, the apple orchards, etc. So the description, the power of description here, along with, of course, narrative. Yes, the lot that we can give credit to, and description. So that is most striking about the novel. That is why when you said ice hockey, I was thinking about the ice, and then I moved on to the other details in the novel. Yeah.
Yeah. Though descriptive, it also leaves a lot of space for readers to imagine. So That is one of the striking features.
Very
of the,
evocative
book.
kind of model that is there.
Yeah. When you said, when you were referring about Susan Brooks, the weakness of the weak. So I think she also tries to say how weakness for a woman is looked at and weakness of a man is looked at. So how a drunken woman is looked at and how a drunken man is looked at. So how the society has different yardsticks for man and a woman. Though she does perform well in her capacity as a mayor, what are the other cultural taboo which still exist in different societies? She does mention and gives us an overview of such things as well. Yeah.
See, I want to talk about the political angle in the play. I mean, in the novel. When you're talking about the political angle, I'm talking about meeting with the when she goes to the Senate House. Yes, and when she says it's so easy to walk in there without a pass. No, the visitors gallery, you can go sit there, watch the proceedings. Okay, Sharda.
I know, as a journalist, what are the
yeah.
you have to before entering any official place. Yeah, so I was surprised when I read that as well. Yeah.
And it also gives an idea as to how, the commoner, how the commoner can participate, contribute, give their views. And she talks about the male to give the answer the, what is that, the statistics, where she says there was a survey about regarding safety. Yes, the questionnaire that she had to fill in. And she says, okay, otherwise I would have ignored filling that, since it probably would contribute towards the protection of women and children. Perhaps I'm going to do that. Okay, and it's a kind of a, not an eye-opener, it's some good practice which probably she thinks that could be emulated in the Indian context as well, because here also we have a lot of civic issues, but nobody really is bothered to, your counselor or anyone, nobody really wants to come and do a door-to-door survey. Yes, and that's something which she talks about, and you get a sample of that incident in the novel. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, not exactly connected to this novel, but when I read the interviews of women elected representatives, especially those representatives of the local administration, I was reminded of this one news which was there I guess some 5 or 7 years ago, where we had called many women councillors of the city, and we found that a majority of their phones were attended by their husbands or some other male members. So even their official phone numbers were held by male members of the family. So when we had to ask questions about when we had questions about the civic issues and we wanted to have an explanation from them, they said, she wouldn't know. Please tell me what is the issue. I am the one who is going to answer you. So this is the response we got from majority of the women elected councillors. So when I was reading the interviews of the elected representatives from the West, so I was reminded of this incident. So as she says, women's direct political participation is definitely important, and how direct it is even after they get elected is also important, I feel.
Yeah, actually, the author directly comments about that. She says that most of the time the proxy kind of administration that happens. Yes, and you see that also in reality. So there is always this ambiguity about how much women are empowered, even if they are given that kind of 33% reservation. So that is still a very, very ambivalent situation here. And in contrast, you see that over there, from the characters, the Senate members, the councillors, the mayor, and all that. Much more participation, much more involvement. And one thing she says, it is you don't get any monetary benefit out of that, which is something very different from our Indian scenario. And she says, all the mayor, whether be the mayor or the councillors, we don't get monetary benefit. She says it's purely, out of interest. So you want to do humanitarian service, you want to do social work, you want to do, good work for your town or city, then it's purely individual interest. So that point is very clearly made there. So probably that is another reason. And women naturally in India, disadvantaged as far as finances or economics are concerned. So maybe that they are relying on their husbands, the family business probably. So these are many factors that you have to, that readers have to consider when we talk about women representation in Indian context. So I was just thinking about that aspect. Yeah. Okay.
So,
Yeah,
we should-
do you have any more to discuss? Let me first congratulate both of you, because this is the first time we have tried this through Zoom. And I'll tell you that except you, I don't think anybody would have made it so interesting. It was for almost 1 hour. And both of you spoke so beautifully, eloquently, and it was definitely captivating to every one of them. I've given details, people, because some of you are asking me in a private chat how to buy this book. The book costs 600 rupees. It's a hardcover book, but as a special price today, we would like to give you at 500 rupees. You can GPay. I've given the number earlier, but I'll send you again. Now, if you have anything to ask by any of these panelists on the discussions that they carried out, or you want to speak to Madam Sivakami, you can always raise your hand using that symbol. Now over to Madam Sivakami for observations, because these two ladies, through their conversations, have left few questions here and there to be answered by Madam Sivakami. Over to you, ma'am. Welcome.
At the outset, I would like to really thank Mr. Olivannan, Dr. Miruna George, and Sharda for the providing an excellent opportunity for discussion and also introducing the book. And I was waiting, maybe some of the participants could ask questions, and later on I could interact. But there are some people among the participants who have read the book, I think. So should we ask them to interact if
yes,
they
madam.
want?
Yes, madam. You are.
Yeah.
Yes. You can point out their name so that I can unmute. They can ask questions, madam. You please tell.
Maybe there is Pearly Walter. Pearly.
Yeah. I'm unmuting her. Yes, Pearly Water, please. You can unmute and speak. Yes, please go ahead. You can speak now.
Pearly, she's there.
Yeah, very much there.
Or Madam Garyali, who has been listening to it, maybe she wants to say something. You can unmute
Yes.
Madam Garyali.
Yeah, I have done that. Madam, you have to unmute yourself, madam. Yeah, go ahead, madam. Yes, welcome, madam. Welcome.
Now, first of all, let me admit I have not read the book, but I have heard about the book all the time, because while Sivakami was writing, she was telling us constantly what she's writing. So I could understand who Bhuvana is and what is happening to her and what research she is doing and so on. So I'm familiar with all that. So when both young ladies were discussing, I could appreciate, because so many of these incidents she has narrated to us, as we were during the course of writing the book. And so I'm glad it has come out so well. And both these ladies, Sharda also, I know it's wonderful, and George, Miruna George, and beautiful professor of English from Stella Maris. Wonderful work you have done. So I know Sivakami from the time she joined the services, worked with me. I know her passion. I know when she resigned. I know when she went into politics. So I could see the entire thing reflecting in this mirror which she has created. And also it was very interesting because writing about the Western society and comparing it with us. So I remember when I was in Oxford and my tutor told me, why are you sitting in library? You go out and meet the people and interview them. If people come to India, these British people, and they interview all your people, why can't you go out and interview people? So I'm very glad, because there I felt for the first time that we could also look at the society and this Western society and interview them and find out what's happening to them and how they are in relation to us and all that. So I'm so glad in novel it has come out that she has been, whether without formally interviewing or not, she has been trying to study the people and their behavior and comparing them with Indian scenario. I was very impressed by what you told, the story of sanitary worker, because her heart is always with the Dalit community, the farmers, the protests. I know which protests she went for and so on. And she even cooked in the farmers' protests. She was serving the langar also. So having known her, I'm very glad this particular novel has come in a different manner. And I'm glad it's in English so that a lot more people apart from Tamil audience can read it. I'm very glad. Always feel very proud of her, because I feel that, we work so much together that something of mine might have rubbed on her also. And a lot of her has been rubbed on me also. So, we might have contributed to the growth of each other. So very glad. And Sivakami, congratulations for yet another milestone.
Thank you,
So
ma'am.
glad to be able to connect and be able to
I'm so happy that we are able to
be with all of you today. I'm so glad.
Thank you, ma'am.
And the grief also that you have mentioned about the grief you undergone, and I have seen you through that period, and then you didn't sit back and you bounced back and you fought through your grief, and you went to study, you went to do research, you're still writing. I mean, that grief can never really be wiped away forever, but in spite of that, and that's a brave girl. Thank you for being so brave.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam. Thank you. Now, may I request Manimegalai Mani Madam to speak? You can unmute yourself and speak. Yes. Manimegalai Mani. You raised your hand. You have to unmute yourself and speak.
Pearlie is not responding, is it?
Yeah. Varshini, please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I am the line only. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I am Mani, Vice President of for Indian Women Intellects, headed by our beloved national leader Sivakami IAS. Jai Bhim, Vanakkam. Can I speak in Tamil, sir?
Okay.
Yeah, of course, there may be a couple of them may not understand, but you could go ahead. Please.
No problem. I will speak in English only, sir. Thank you so much. I am very much proud to hear this appreciation from all over the world about our Ma'am G novel, Language of Mirror. So I have been with the ma'am with the past 20 years. After my own mother, I inspired about our Sivakami IAS through all his personal activities and political activities. She is inspiration of my life, I have to say. Can you hear me, sir?
Very much, madam. Very clear, very clear. Please go ahead.
Yeah, please, sir. First of all, I want to thank our Karyali ma'am, Kannaki Bakinathan ma'am, and then Sharada ma'am, Dr. Miruna and Georgie, those who participate more than 100% in our.
Madam, not clear now. You have to unmute yourself, please. Yeah. Can you speak now? You have to unmute and speak. Yeah. Please go ahead. Now, perfect. Go ahead. No, again you.
நீங்க பேசலையா?
மேடம்
Hello.
கேட்கல நீங்க பேசுறது. மேடம் நீங்க பேசுறது கேட்கல. அன்மியூட் பண்ணிட்டு பேசுங்க.
நீங்க பேசுங்க.
மேடம் அன்மியூட் பண்ணிட்டு பேசுங்க மேடம் நீங்க. இல்ல திரும்ப ஆமா இப்ப பேசுங்க. இல்ல நீங்க ரெண்டு தடவை பிரஸ் பண்றதுனால அது அன்மியூட் ஆகி திரும்ப மியூட் ஆயிரும் மேடம்.
Because 2 days Srinagar full power cut, that is the main problem.
Now perfect. Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to ask only one question about your beloved Sivakami ma'am about the gender discriminations in participation of politics. Because all the works done by women as equal to men, but we can't able to sit in the diocese itself, means that is the main drawback. I'm also a political leader, having participated past 25 years as a government employee, but I cannot sit in the diocese, even any meeting. I can't be able to speak also. This shows that most gender discrimination in as well as official duties in political also. Ma'am Sivakami ma'am, may kindly explain in few words. We are waiting for our good reply, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Mani. I will address it later.
Please, ma'am. Thank you.
Now over to Pannirselvam, sir. Please, he is there. Sir, you can speak, sir.
For me, the most defining element of the book is the desire to live while existing. Therefore, there is a difference between existing and to live. Live means you realize your aspirations. There's space for aspirations, there's space for expectations, negotiating difficulties. Therefore, this entire idea of negotiating the desire to live while existing comes out very well. The fact that she is willing to take up a fellowship and go is a desire to live. It's not to just exist. Therefore, this desire to live embodies the idea of human agency. For me, the underlying principle is the human agency which comes out in this book. And this human agency has two elements. One is institutional arrangements, and another one is the individual initiatives. And she also manages to establish the relationship between the institutional space for human agency and the individual initiatives to keep this individual agency going. Therefore, that makes the book very, very important. And thank you for writing this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pannirselvam, sir. Now over to Varshini. Yes, Varshini, you can unmute and speak.
Yeah, hi, hello everybody. I'm Varshini. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, Varshini.
Hello, ma'am. Yeah, I have two questions for you. So first one is like, while framing Bhuvana's character or writing any incident in the story, has there been any inspiration from your personal life or someone whom you know?
I will answer all together at the last.
She will do it in the end.
Yeah.
Thanks, Varshini, for that.
Thank you, Varshini.
Yeah, sure.
Now, Mange, please unmute, madam. Yes, madam. Madam, you can speak. Mange, madam, you can speak. My audio is ready. I think some problem with our audio.
So, Olivannan, sir, may I ask a question? I would like to ask.
Yes, madam.
The author.
It's your ahead, please.
Yes. Hello, ma'am. Okay. I have clubbed two questions. You can answer later. One is, the personal and the political. Where do you draw the line? How do you balance the two when the urge is to give both proper due? Yes, there are these two strands that I had been talking about, the personal and the political. Because what is more overpowering? Is it the desire to tell a story or express the insights and observations on life or living as such? So these are the two questions. One is, yeah.
Thank you. Is Mangai coming back? No.
I think some problem with her audio. She's there very much. Once again, I'll try. Mangai madam, otherwise, if you find difficulty in speaking, you can probably text us through the chat box, madam. You can speak now. I think there's a problem with your audio. Otherwise, you remove that jack from your system and speak directly to the system, madam.
There is one Mr. T.S. Ahuja who raises his hand.
Yes, madam. Can you spell his name, madam? P.S.
T.S. Ahuja. It's visible on the screen. You can ask it to unmute. Mr. Ahuja, you can unmute and speak.
Yes, yes, you can speak now. Yes.
Well, I have not read the book, but during the course of discussion, I came across a term, historical loss. Now, well, it's an interesting proposition. And if Ms. Sivakami could enlighten us more on that particular aspect and what she considers could be that how this issue of historical loss can be addressed. I'll be interested to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. But she will answer. In the meantime, yeah, thank you, madam. In the meantime, Mangai has sent us a message through the chat box. First, she has said some problem with the system, but I want to add one more comment about this effort. I think with this book, we are questioning the mediation of translation. Sivakami has bridged her creative self in Tamil and English. That's it, madam. If you want, you can also read chat box. You got the point, right? She says that she wanted to make a comment that I think with this book, we are questioning the mediation of translation. Sivakami has bridged her creative self in Tamil and English.
Thank you, Mangai. Thank you.
You can. Yeah.
So
you can go ahead and answer the questions, madam.
Okay. I thank everyone who has asked question and showed interest. And particularly, I thank Dr. Miruna George and Sharda for their wonderful criticisms, I should say. And I'll start with Mangai. I was basically writing in Tamil, but when I had time, while I was posted in Tokyo, because I couldn't socialize with people because of language barriers, though I knew certain kanjis, means I cleared up to level 3. That is, first 4 is the starting point, 3 is the next step. So I cleared level 3, but I couldn't speak the language. So I was left alone. So I thought I used my time in translating my own novel. And there is history to why it was not translated. That's a different story that I'm not going to go into detail. So when I translated it and I published, actually the gap was almost 20 years. 1986, I wrote the Tamil version. But when it was published, it was 2006 or 7. So this 20 years gap is too much. And Tamil, of course, I received a lot of acclaim for that first novel, and especially the Murpokku Ezhuthalar Sangam, means it's a wing of the leftist parties. So they took the novel and they went ahead in propagating in all the villages in the south. And so that gave me a lot of courage to translate that novel and publish it in English. But later, when I started Pudiya Kodangi magazine and started interacting politically, not on a literature basis. And also I used to criticize and, the others' writings from the point of view of Dalit, a perspective of a Dalit and feminist. So this really, created a lot of anxiety and also opposition against me. So people day by day, they refused to talk about the book. And so after my second novel also, that is Anandai also, I went through successfully. And after that, I think there was a problem. And the second book also, Anandai, I wrote in 1993. And it was, I think, translated by Preetham Chakravarti and published by Penguin in English and reached much late, means almost the 20 years gap was maintained. And the third novel, the cross section, I couldn't translate myself. Professor C.T. Indra had translated it very well for Sahitya Academy, and Sahitya Academy published it. But Sahitya Academy books, in English, I don't think it had reached many so far. So I thought, okay, why shouldn't I write in English also? So, and moreover, when I was in US, I found, I was interacting with the people whose main language is English. So if I want to do justice to the subject that I had taken for this novel, I must write in English. But at this point, I remember I was kind of sharing a platform with Gugi Watyango, a linguist from South Africa, means an African continent, and his main language was Kikuyi, it's called. Mangai has translated his work from English to Tamil. I have read that also. So he said that he has been writing in English, but he wanted to switch over to Kikuyi because people need to read his works. But I'm now, switching over from English to Tamil. It's not that, it's very foreign to Indians, because most of them means people who read novels, they can also understand. If they want, they can read English also. But the thing is, because of the subject that I had chosen and the landscape, the place and people, on all the names, as you have noticed, it's all English names. So I thought I better write English. That was my motivation to write in English. And I'm thankful to Kadambari, who had given a blurb at the back, and also thankful to Olivannan for publishing it. Now, the main subject matter I'm trying to decipher is, of course, the preoccupation is women as a whole. And it so happened that I couldn't meet many men also there to form a kind of because until the author knows the minds of people well, you cannot come to a conclusion. So Bhuvana, as such, is left with the group of women, and the university's Women, Gender and Sexuality Studies department also has almost 65 lecturers. Most of them, 90% of them are females. So therefore, it was an environment fully for women, and the subject also the participation of women in the political process and governance. That was the topic. So therefore, it was so ideal to make it, women as a central part of the story. And it's not only this novel. I try to analyze the Grip of Change, which first novel, and Anandayi is Taming of Women, and also Kurukuvetta, the cross section. Also, everything revolves around either the underprivileged section of the society or women. So this is not very surprising for me to, to have selected women as my subject matter. And so many people ask it's whether it is biographical. Even my first novel, they said autobiography. And second novel also, they said something to do with the, my own life. And it's very difficult to explain why it's not a biography. Because see, anything which is not concerned with you can become part of your own life. Because the pertinent question asked by Dr. Miruna George, whether it is personal or political, how both of them meet and merge. So I feel there is nothing called personal. Whatever is personal, it's all political. And our personal lives are all governed by laws initiated from the society or outside yourself. And maybe based on individual experiences. So the collective experiences of people form the political aspect of a personal life. So there is no difference between personal as well as political. And as Madam Garyali has said that she knows me very well and what I was up to. And even Sharda had mentioned that, from the narrative, you can always guess what this Bhuvana was up to earlier in her life. So these are all kind of, it's not kind of a chronological, it is not something real, because the experiences of others, the collective experiences also get merged with individual experiences. So I don't call it as a biography. Maybe there are some sketches, some elements of biography in it. I can't absolutely deny it is not, by some of my personal lives are also involved. But what is convenient or what is interesting is, see, when you write about others, you have to really work hard to know their minds. And if you're writing about the character that you know and you live with, so it's very convenient. So I had chosen a very, very convenient path of writing. So, and it really kind of, see, the first-hand experience helps you, makes it convenient for you to present it authentically. And somehow I should admit that I am not that imaginative to observe things, what is not known to me, and present it very well. So if I could present whatever is known to me very well, that I am very happy. So that way, so the structure of biography, can be found in my works. So it's not absolutely biographical. That's what I want to answer Dr. Miruna George. And see, I have read a number of works, the Westerners. For them, we are subject matters of observation, subject matters of research, but we don't take them as subject matters for observation and research. I remember a passage to India. This was a novel, but I had seen the picture, the passage to India, and where a person is making tea near the train toilet. So the Westerners, they get very upset when they see, and then kind of say nothing is conversed there, but the very expression of that person who sees that a person is preparing tea at the train toilet makes it, kind of Indians are like that. So that kind of imagination or message they give to the rest of the world. So now it's our turn also to see what is in Western culture, and sometimes it's good we can learn, sometimes it's not all that good that we can always criticize. So that was when and also certain basic elements which are common to both the cultural aspects of India as well as US. For example, Annabelle and his sister-in-law, they are not in good terms. So like in India. And also mother-in-law and daughter-in-law problem is everywhere in the world. It's not very unique to India. And also drunkenness and they are, kind of a man-woman relationship. So also, like India. So there are basic elements which are common to all of us, maybe all the parts of the world. But what differs is kind of an attitude towards that life. So we consider it's very normal and we accept it, but the foreigners think it's very abnormal and they get dejected. So we also find something very abnormal in their cultural areas, and we don't follow it, means we don't accept it. So these are the areas which were very, kind of interesting to me. Like, see, the library, how it was used in the Western society and how it is used in Indian society. It's very comparable, and I really appreciate them. And how the people, kind of while Annabelle trying to exploit Bhuvana, but she's very indifferent, she's helpful. At the same time, Bhuvana is trying to please her in many ways. And when she went to her house to help her in a domestic course, she puts more utensils to her. So which is quite, common, the human tendency as such. But at the same time, I was thinking, see, a foreigner, when he walks in Indian roads, nobody volunteers to go and talk to them and invite them, speak to them and all that. So you feel very normal. But in US, you're, of course, you have to make an effort to talk to them. But once you establish contact, so they will probably help. So I find that the most Indian communities who move to US, this is my personal observation. So they start constructing their own temples, their own community. They live in a closed society. They don't make so much of, they are not very mobile. The mobility between Indian and Western society is not that much, where they can, because some of these societies have really done that in Fiji and Mauritius. People, different cultures coexist at the same time. They not coexisting, they merge with one another, and the separate identity is slowly emerging. So when we talk about global personality, and we try to keep our identity so strong, it becomes a barrier. So I found that, all that we need is an effort, because the basic elements are the same. Certain cultural traits are different. So we may adjust. So that is what another thing that I was trying, whether it had come out well or not, I don't know, but I was trying to do that. And also in Tamil movies, I have seen number of songs, they will use a backdrop. There may be a potter who's making, pots at the background, but the actors will be going around and singing. There is no relationship between the dance and movements and the song and the personalities and the backdrop. So now the colleges will be shown only to say he's a student and rest will be something else. The film will be revolving around, it's a kind of a, love or something else, violence or whatever. So when a person is in the university, it is better that the university also is a potential, means a backdrop that can change or alter your opinions or ideas. So that I thought I would use that university for Bhuvana to bring out certain factors about India and comparing India and Western society. So these are all some of the things that I have dealt. And Mani had asked the gender discrimination, and she's asking solutions from me, but it's all the solution. It lies in everybody's hands. It's not that somebody can, give a solution like that. Like Foucault, he says that, the Marxist always targeted the state as an instrument which can bring about change. But he says every institution, however small it is, like education institution and your day-to-day life, your home, everything in the family, the institutions, you can start making changes. It's sometimes from top to bottom, sometimes from bottom to top. You try to change how to sleep, your even your postures while you sleep, and then the language that you talk to your male members. So you try to analyze and think about it, try to change a little bit. So it's all adding up to the greater change that we are talking about. So it's all in our hands. So we can always change the world, but slowly and steadily. It's not that a revolution can change overnight. So with this, I think I thank Dr. Paneerselvam, who's a very good translator. And yes, it's existence and living, they are two different things. So you do the routine and you're played by others. So living is that you decide your own life, how to go about and how to, make the best out of life. So yeah, I'm still trying. Thank you very much. And I thank everyone for their patience. Thank you very much. And please do encourage and buy the book from Dr. Olivannan. Thank you very much.
That's the best statement for the publisher to hear too. Yes. So I'm sure that this would be one of your good buys for the year 2022. Thank you. And it's time for us to wind up. It's almost 12 o'clock on Sunday. I know I'm not sure about you, but I have to get into the kitchen to make something for me for the lunch. So thank you to those two lovely ladies, Miruna and Sharda. You are really enlightened us. It's quite interesting also. It's always interesting when two women speak. And so many things comes out naturally. That's how today you are not rehearsed anything. You have read by yourself, and you came out with the questions and brilliantly each one answered to other, discussed well, and finally Madam Sivakami summed it up so well, and also participants who enthusiastically asked questions. For a publisher, it's always a tension for him when he arranges a book launch, waiting for the crowd to come. So today, Sunday being Sunday, I was wondering whether we would have enough crowd on the screen. I mean, I thank immensely every one of you, particularly the Tamil group, Varangal Padipom, so many of them have come this morning. 15 of them I saw, and many people, good friends of Sivakami Madam, and also quite a number of journalists and many academicians have joined. Many professors from various colleges have come. Thank you all for joining us. Those people who have joined little late, don't worry. You can go back to the YouTube and listen to the rewind and listen to the portions that you have missed. Thank you very much. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sharda. Thank you, Miruna George.
Thank you, Madam Sivakami, and thank you, Mr. Olivannan, and special thanks to Madam Gariali. So during her book launch, we were able to meet, and I ended up being a part of the session. It was great, and I would request all of you to read the book as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olivannan. Thank you, Dr. Sivakami, for this opportunity. Thank you very much. It was a lovely experience. I really enjoyed reading the book. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.